After the war ended, Times Square became mobbed with crowds of enthusiastic citizens carrying flags and cheering, and the Times Tower was strung with electric lights for the celebration. Since this moment, Times Square has always been a gathering place for the entire city, drawing cheerful crowds to the spirited environment. During the 1920s, Broadway reached its prime. Although people argue over exactly how many theaters there were, everyone agreed that Broadway theaters were booming in the 20s. During these years, the number of productions increased from 126 in 1917 to 264 in 1928, which is still the all-time peak of Broadway. During the 20s and after the war, the American population was moving more and more into the cities. In response to the many social changes occurring in America, the new plays on Broadway eliminated their old traditional storylines and productions. In What Price Glory, the writer sent the message that war is not noble but irrelevant. In Desire Under the Elms, the life of the traditional American farmer degenerated into incest and greed. This collapse of tradition turned drama into a criticism of life, and surprisingly, this was the best period in drama on Broadway. Overall, in the 1920s, Broadway was bursting with energy and enterprise. The theater was filled with hope and fresh ideas and new styles of craftsmanship. And with the organization of the Theater Guild by Lawrence Langanger, Broadway became a brilliant center that influenced the theater of the world. This will be the decade that sees a push for genuine repertory theater, with some success. It is the decade that sees blacks on Broadway, not as secondary entertainment, but as stars in white productions, and as stars of their own theater creation, black productions for white audiences. It is also the decade of the cry for a quote-unquote morality police, which is the argument between what is art and what is not. This is an argument a lot older than this decade, and which still hasn't been successfully resolved.
Since people normally could not afford to go to the Broadway show every night, people needed a way of entertainment they could get from their own home. One of the greatest developments in the 1920s is the radio. The radio was a source of many types of entertainment. In the 20s, music changed completely and gave it definition. Music, such as jazz music, was the most popular. However, it didn't start out like that. Jazz was known as the devil's music, before people could give it a chance. Soon enough, jazz was played in every club and at every party. It originates from New Orleans, where African Americans use this upbeat and rhythmic sound to tell stories of their history. Another type of music that was big was the big brass band. Both types consisted of many types of horns, many types of drums, and original lyrics. Apart from music, journalism was a huge factor to the 1920s. People would tune in to hear what was going on in their country and around their town in general. Along with the true stories, there were fictional ones too. The most well-known story at the time was Charles Lindbergh. The radio was a pathway to a better and more advanced entertainment. An entertainment that you could see with your eyes and not only hear with your ears. Since the radio was such a big hit in the 1920s, people wanted more. They needed something that was more advanced and that you could see. One type of entertainment in particular towers over all. These mind-blowing advances are known as cinema and TV. There were two types of cinema, silent films and talking pictures. Talking pictures are known as talkies. Silent films were either a comedy or a romance, much like the movies we see today in theaters. The actors didn't utter a word, but portrayed every feeling they had through movements and gestures. Never, ever have people seen moving pictures, or talking ones for that matter. Talkies were a sensation. Life as we knew it flipped upside down, opening more ideas to arts and entertainment. What came next was the mini cinema in the comfort of your own home. Most pictures shown were broadcasts of networks and advertisements of products. People wouldn't see these normally as walking down the street, or at least they wouldn't see as many. These advances made life easier, more interesting, and definitely more expensive. Most of middle class could hardly afford to see a Broadway show or afford a TV.